Welcome back to the channel. Greg Allen F1, reporting on the Bahrain Grand Prix. What a race we just had. I've got it on in the background, watching Carlos Sainz celebrate. Incredible start to this race, incredible end to this race. Let's get right into the review. 2020 Bahrain Grand Prix, new car, some new drivers, and some new teams for some older drivers. And we had a really good beginning of this race and a really exciting end of this race. And then kind of an average middle. But God, that ending of that race was pretty incredible. Lap one, I felt like we had a pretty good, clean first lap. Hamilton and Magnussen pick up some spots. We did find out later on in the broadcast that Mick Schumacher did have a spin. Esteban Ocon would get a 5-second penalty for that. So not the clean lap that we thought we had, but in the broadcast there were a couple times where they weren't showing the action as it was actually happening. Lap two, McLaren on the mediums, and they go straight to the back. And Valtteri Bottas also has a terrible start and kind of just goes right to the back. He would make up for that later on in the race. Not a good start, though, for these drivers in particular. Lap 3, Magnussen locks up. Checo takes that spot. By lap 10, Checo gets Hamilton for 4th. And we see that the Red Bull race pace looks like it's going to be pretty incredible. And the Mercedes, not so much. Mercedes played around with a lot of strategies today. I thought that was very interesting. Ultimately works out in the end after what happened at the end of this race. Probably got a little lucky with some of the stuff that went down in front of them. But they try a hard tire compound, as we'll see later on. Doesn't really work out for them. And which we talk about. Lap 12, Hamilton comes in for that hard compound. And that's a compound that all the teams that tried it are going to wind up abandoning that strategy, as there was just no pace and no grip with that hard tire. It'll be very interesting to see how that tire is used throughout the remainder of the season. Lap 15, Max pits for softs. Carlos Sainz responds, and we have our pit stops happening. The ... there means all the other teams start responding. We get our first big group pit session there. Hamilton complains a little bit that he boxed maybe a little too early. Lap 16, we get Leclerc and Checo boxing as well. The undercut works almost for Max there. He almost gets the lead, and that would come into play a little bit later. And then lap 17, 18, and 19, probably the most exciting parts of this race until the end. We get Max versus Leclerc, and I called it round 1, round 2, and round 3. Each lap on the main straight, Max would make a dive down to get around. Leclerc would get around him, but the next DRS zone, Charles would get back around Max. Just great wheel-to-wheel racing. An embarrassment of riches when it came to racing between those two. We had a really good showdown for a while. 3 straight laps, the crowd was on their feet. You could hear the energy. And that was the point of this new car, right? Was good following and overtakes just like that. Lap 27. Lando Norris goes on the hard tires. We've already seen that they're not working for the Mercedes at this point. And I guess they did that because they started off on the medium tires. But just noted several times on this ugly race for McLaren going. Obviously, you know, if you watch this channel, that I'm a McLaren fan. Haas kind of being my number 2. I love all the teams, really, and all the drivers. But those are teams that I usually pull for. And boy, what a reversal we've had between McLaren and Haas in just one offseason. Ugly race for McLaren. At this point, around lap 27, they were, I believe, 18th and 20th on the grid. Not good. Up here, lap 28, Hamilton boxes for the mediums, and Mercedes keeps playing with that strategy back and forth. Max boxes for mediums, Leclerc responds with mediums, and then we have the undercut situation again. The team telling Max to protect the tires, I guess, more than he liked. He comes out and is very upset about protecting the tires. He felt both times that they boxed a lap earlier than the Ferrari. He had a chance on his out lap to overtake them and was being held back a little bit. The announcers talked a little bit about how that might not have actually been the case. But either way, Max not going to be a very happy driver throughout this entire race Sunday, especially with the way things are going to wind up ending. So, lap 34, Sainz and Checo also box. Russell follows suit, and we get a whole bunch of that strategy game playing out. More issues for McLaren. Lando Norris gets a slow stop on his soft tire, just adding insult to injury. Probably things that most people wouldn't notice. As a McLaren fan, I just felt like putting that down there. A race weekend to forget for McLaren and a lot of the Mercedes-powered cars, with the exception of Mercedes, who pull out a podium finish there at the end. Lap 45, Carlos Sainz boxes for fish. You can tell that there's no coffee today. For softs, fishing for another spot is what I was trying to say there. And we start hearing about Max Verstappen possibly having some issues. But he's holding on for a little while until lap 46 when Pierre Gasly has a fire on his car. And that was some things to come there for the entire Red Bull organization, if you include AlphaTauri to that. That brings out a full safety car that allows everyone to get in there, get their free stop for tires. It helps out Leclerc, who it looked like we were going to have an interesting strategy battle there where he stays in, his teammate comes in, or he stays out, his teammate comes in, and seeing if the Red Bulls were going to be able to chase them down on soft tires, at the, new softs at the end of this race. Doesn't work out that way because of the safety car. Everyone comes in, gets pits. I know that Magnussen, I was a little worried for him because he looked like he was going to stay out there and maybe lose some spots. But when the safety car comes out, Magnussen comes in. A wonderful finish for Kevin Magnussen today. He does wind up 5th at the end of this race. Just absolutely monster day for the Haas team. Mick Schumacher rolled the dice there at the end too, staying out there. He got himself in the points for a few minutes. Couldn't hold on against the fresher tires, but I'm loving the energy at the Haas team right now. And it's going to be interesting how they can roll that momentum throughout the remainder of this season. Safety car ends on lap 50, and Charles Leclerc is able to hold on to the lead. It looked like just a really great start for him, but as we'd find out in the next few laps, Red Bull is going to have some serious reliability issues here. Sainz gets Max for second. Looked like it was a great pass, but as we find out just less than a lap later, Max Verstappen has a failure, a complete power failure, and has to retire from this event. The crowd loses their mind over this. It's obviously a huge moment. Ferrari goes 1-2, and of course, that puts Checo as their lone hope for a podium at that point. And shortly thereafter, Checo starts announcing that he's losing power. Hamilton right on the back of him, using DRS, trying to make a move. And as they go into turn 1, Checo loses all power in an engine failure and spins out. A completely monster moment in the race there. And Hamilton gets around him. And Red Bull, who started off this weekend, I don't want to say gloating, but extremely giddy that Mercedes seemed to be struggling with their power and their speed. And Max said things, Christian Horner said things, the Red Bull team in general just looking absolutely like a kid on Christmas with how much Mercedes was struggling. They're going to end this race with absolutely no points, and both their drivers unable to finish it. And a Mercedes right now I'm watching standing on the podium with Ferrari. So Red Bull might have had a little bit more pace, but if you can't finish the race, that doesn't really matter, does it? So Mercedes finds a way. They're going to be way ahead in the constructors, and right now Red Bull is sitting behind Haas in the constructors and in the drivers' championship. So before we count your chickens before they hatch there a little bit for Red Bull, make sure you have a car that can finish the race. 3 of their 4 drivers in that stable unable to get to the end because of reliability issues. Huge deal for that team. Do I think it's a massive setback for the whole year? It sets them back on the back foot for sure, but I do think they'll figure out that issue and it won't happen again, or at least not often. But either way, what a turn of events the last 4 or 5 laps of this race. Your final. Charles Leclerc gets his first win of the season, his first win in a couple years. Ferrari goes 1-2 for the first time since 2019, and their last win, of course, with a totally different driver lineup. Carlos Sainz getting a second. Both these drivers are going to win a few races this year at minimum. Ferrari looks fantastic. Their power looks fantastic. The energy there is great, and I'm loving, for now, the way these two are acting as teammates. I think that's super important. And Lewis Hamilton, you never count out that man right there. All weekend long, it's been about how Mercedes does not look very good, doesn't look fast, and that man standing on the podium once again. And both Mercedes cars are well ahead of Red Bull after one race. So really interesting and good race there. It's so great to have Formula One back. I'm absolutely excited. Obviously, I'm on the road here, which is why I'm doing this paper thing here instead of my normal board. Normal board will return on Thursday with my power rankings. If you just happen upon this channel, stealing a line from one of my favorite YouTubers, and you came across my content and you want to see more of it, remember to give me a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video on Thursday for our Week 1 Power Rankings. Hope you enjoyed the race as much as I did. See you in the next one.